Hello and welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to continue with the Klein Tools mod box sets, and we're going to take a look at the new SDS Demolition Driver Set. This is kind of interesting, and there's a few things about this that I really like, and one glaring thing that's been talked about here on the channel in the comments that is really kind of bad with this one. But let's get this thing open and check it out. This is made in Vietnam, if you are keeping track. Okay, so we are in good and close here, taking a look at this. And there is a nice chisel tip, a nice pointed chisel in here. There is a, they're calling this a keystone driver, which is 5/16, and then a prying tool. Now, something interesting about this is that these are hex, and this driver handle has a hex inside with a ball detent. You can kind of see it down in there, and this is designed to hold SDS chisels, holds them in there, and you can use this as a beat on it chisel, which is pretty solid, I have to say. This whole thing is very solid. The pointed chisel is what you would expect. It's very pointed. And it's interesting to me how that hex shape is just fit so that the SDS-Plus bits fit right inside, and that ball detent is catching this here on the SDS-Plus bit. But that hex drive does allow them to give you a really big and robust 5/16 screwdriver that would be a heck of a beating tool. So that's actually pretty nice, and you can change this out if you wanted to turn this whole thing into a pry bar. You can stick this in here, and now you've got a simple basic pry bar that you can use for little things. It's got the little nail insert and all that stuff, but honestly, sometimes if you're setting things, it's just a little bit of a pry stick would go a long way. So I was kind of curious on how these things were going to go. Now, one of the nicer pieces that they thought of here, and there's no locking, so there's that, but this is an adapter for 1/4" hex. Now let me get something 1/4" hex and we'll see how it goes in. Okay, so we have our standard 1/4" hex tools, and let's see if I can get that to go in here and lock. So that goes in there very hard, and that will adapt, if you have the right tips, this screwdriver to anything really. Now this didn't seem to detent into something. There seems to be a little bit of a, but it's not very solid. Try a different tip here, see if we can get that in. It still doesn't hold the best, so it looks like they have kind of like the spline drive tools. There's this spring here, and I think there's a ball detent in there. This doesn't really hold the absolute best. I wish they would have put something with retaining on that, and this thing would really be pretty flawless. All the same, this is a decent tool to beat on. I mean, it is pretty well made. Now, if you're looking at this and you see that hex and you're wondering, is that by chance 7/16 hex, much like the linemen generally use for their tools? It is not. And I don't think they purposely went to this size hex so that it's not. I think they went to this size hex because it needs to fit the SDS-Plus bits and retain them. This is very tight in here, and that's how that's working. So I think that's why this size hex was chosen, but I could be wrong. Now looking at this overall, there is a very, very poor use of space in this. This is something that has been talked about on the channel in the comments, that most of these sets have a very poor use of space. The things could be a lot closer together. Now while these are retained very well in here, I have to say, that is retained very well, I feel like it could be closer together, because you can grab the stuff in here. They could have included either more bits in here, or you know, maybe other adapters. The 1/4" hex adapter is actually pretty nice. Maybe there's some others that they could have included, maybe their own spline or something for the other sockets that they have. Might have been kind of nice to have, because sometimes you do need to beat on a socket, and this is a very robust handle. To give you an idea, the handle alone on this thing weighs 412 grams, so it's got some weight to it, which isn't anything bad. This is a nice solid handle. I'll be curious to see how it holds up on once you start striking it with a hammer, and maybe we'll do some testing with this on the channel at some point. In fact, we're going to take the opportunity to play around with the Fluke 83 that we recently kind of did a renovation on the channel. Let's get our meter leads into sport mode here. And what we're going to look for is there continuity between the striking end here and this end? And there is. So that's telling us that this is a solid piece of metal straight through here, which it definitely feels like. This is a solid tool. So they put a nice handle on this, a little bit of that classic Klein plastic color, and this chuck feels very smooth. It's actually quite nice. So they have these nice chisel bits and everything else, and the question might be, well, how hard is it? So let's get out our HRC Rockwell file set here, and we'll start at a 60 and go down from there. I honestly don't know what to expect on this. That's gliding on there, so this is pretty hard. It's definitely scratching, so I'd say it's somewhere between a 60 and a 65. The 60 does scratch in a little bit. Let's try a 55. It is filing it, so I don't know if that's the scale on top. Yeah, that's skating. So we're actually somewhere around an HRC 55 on the hardness of this one, the chisel tip. Now our poker, I'm gonna guess, is somewhere around the same. Yep, we're scratching in there, and yeah, we're not getting a bite on the 50. So this is close to a 50, or 50, I should say between a 50 and a 55. Let's see if all of them are the same. That's biting in. That's really not, so that's about the same hardness. And one last to try out. Go right on the underside here. Scratches in. Kind of skates over it. So the whole set is between a 50 and a 55. The 50 scraping over it. and the 55 cutting in. So it's consistent at least, and that's good. So that's the hardness you want. I don't really know the theory behind masonry bits. You probably don't want them too hard because the bit does actually wear as you use it. So that's some of this. Like this chisel tip will not stay that nice as you use it. Now, of course, the unspoken thing is you can, of course, use this with any SDS-Plus hammer drill, which is a really nice feature that you have in your tools. If you don't carry a standard old school chisel and you carry one of these instead, not only do you have a nice handle to use the tool manually, but you can take this and put it in an SDS-Plus hammer drill, as long as the hammer drill does not spin, because that would be very unfortunate here. So if you just have a hammer drill that hammers only, that'll work out great. And as with most of these Klein sets, you can see they have molding that holds everything into the package. And the latches do the automatic latching thing. It's got a handle on it, which I think will probably be the weak link. And the back and bottom are just kind of basic. Here's your latching mechanism, and the tabs here are what lock into the other packouts, and the tabs here are what lock into the other mod boxes. So I hope this was interesting. Quick look at the Klein Tools SDS-Plus chisel tip set with pry bar and heavy duty screwdriver. Kind of a nice set. This isn't killer expensive for what it is, which makes it nice. I would say the biggest thing to take away from this is if you have the space for all of these cases, this really isn't all that bad. But if you don't have room for all of this, the case is kind of ho-hum. This one especially kind of really uses a lot of space and doesn't have a whole lot in it. So I think that would be the biggest takeaway from this. But if you have the space to put these things and stack them up and use them in that way, this is honestly not a bad setup for you to use. Let me know in the comments below if you have this set, if you got it, if you used it. Did the tips hold up? Did they break? How about any of the other stuff? How about the handle? The handle seems very robust, which I really like, and I'm hoping that holds up really well. Hand chiseling is one of those things that you can't always get away from, so it's nice to have something that you can break out and use, but you don't have to carry everything. This is a little bit more versatile because you can throw it in a SDS-Plus hammer drill. So I kind of like that. I like the setup. I like the ability to turn this into a little pry bar and the heavy duty 5/16 screwdriver that you can really beat on with this. You know, you basically have a demolition screwdriver here with this, because this is a beefy piece, as we discussed. So let me know in the comments below if you have this, if you like it, if you don't like it, what don't you like about it, what did you like about it if you liked it. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a great day.